talking about today?
By the way, all this interview is recorded. Nothing's live. So I
Okay.
will be editing everything. You can still hear me, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll be editing it. And you just said some things that are so key, and I'm saying, why am I not recording this? Because because what
Yeah,
I
I
want
didn't
to
know
do,
if we were
John,
starting or not, so let me know.
yeah,
So,
setting conforme is all about uh, interviewing people that have reached a degree of success as you have, got out of your comfort zone, and you discovered how to do it. And right now, of course, you have a success with your podcast. But this is all about John. So what I want to do is I want to interview John, identify what do you do, how you got to the point you are now, why you got to the point you are now, how you make a difference in people's lives, and where do you see the market going. So typically I do it in Spanish. However,
hagámoslo en español, ¿está bien?
está bien, because I could do it in Spanish too. Setting.
Spanish or English, whatever you want. Or we can do both, like 20 minutes of each. I don't know, whatever you want.
Oh, is that great? I did one with Carlos, my
Okay.
mentor, and we on the same session we did Spanish then we switched to English, and we
Yeah,
did two podcasts at once. So
let's do it. I'll do
let's
it.
do with
Because
that
look,
with
it's
the
it's more content, and I appreciate it because obviously this is one of the things I just was on a podcast and I just cut up some of that stuff recently. That's called the Midway Business Podcast. Actually, that might be a place that I can introduce you to. This guy's name is Butch Zemar. He's an employee benefits. So you
Mhm.
guys would relate about the insurance side and health side. But he started a podcast called Midway Business Connections, I think it's called.
Okay.
So I'm looking to do these things. So when you asked, I was super excited because I'm trying to get more content of me being interviewed than over the 200 plus interviews I've done. So
Yes, no, I want to expose you to my I only got 14 videos. I mean, you've got a ton way ahead of me. So if you could give me any words of advice, either before or after, I always
yeah,
appreciate that because I'm looking to get better at this. But I've got a few questions and everything, so if you don't mind, let's just start it and we'll see where it goes. Okay.
let's go.
Welcome to another edition of Be Discontent, or in Spanish, Ser Inconforme. I am David Munoz, your host, and today we want to welcome just a special guest. His name is John Andrade. He's Senior Vice President of Commercial Banking and author of the book For a Formula. John has dedicated his career to helping entrepreneurs, professionals just make better financial decisions and lead with a purpose. He's got a great podcast called Go4CEO, and I think you are really going to enjoy this interview with John. John Andrade, welcome to Setting Conforme, Be Discontent.
I love it. Inconforme and discontent, man. What a great pointing word, right? What a great word for action in your life. And I will say to the community that follows you, right, the Inconformes, David Munoz, many years ago in about 2017, 2018, I got a chance to meet this gentleman. And I remember I took a video. We were at a picnic where, you take a 60-year-old man just that is fit and still values his health and does great things to stay alive, right, and strong. He went up and did some pull-ups. Man, he was hammering them out, making us 30 and 40 and 50-year-olds look shabby. So congrats to all the success you're having too, David.
John, thanks so much, man. But this is about you. I appreciate the accolades. I'm going to have my turn later on, I'm sure. But this is all about John. John, and of course, I know you and your beautiful family for many, many more years, and we followed each other. We have a chance to work together on many occasions. But tell us a little bit about yourself. First of all, I know you have the book coming up. I don't know if it's finished yet, but I know it's coming up. And I know you have your podcast, and of course, you're a commercial lender. First of all, tell me a little bit about yourself, how you got to where you are today.
Sure, so in the book, it's really interesting, right? Over the last 2.5 years, I've had a chance to, write down some notes and some ideas and thoughts. And throughout the months and years, the last few years, I put down stories, right? And we all as human beings love stories because that's what really sells and shares and inspires people, right? And over those last 2.5 years, I realized like, hey, I came from an only child scenario, right? So I'm the only one, that my mom decided to have. She's my maternal mother, but I never knew my father. My birth father left at about a month old, and lucky enough, my mom found another gentleman that became my stepdad and adoptive father because he took the last name that I had and transitioned it to his in around fifth grade.
Okay.
But it was interesting because throughout that lifespan, I always thought to myself, I'm like, hey, you know, I knew that he was my dad, but like I didn't realize if he was my father, like what happened. And then I realized when I got adopted, oh, like this is a different gentleman. And it was weird because that was never really told to me. It was just kind of just done, right? So
Okay.
that led to just me being independent and thinking and trying to figure out ways. You know, we were kind of lower middle class. You know, he was an iron worker. My mom's just was a clerical person. Um, and, you know, at around 12 years old, I tell him the story of the book that I thought to myself there was this orange cleaning solution in the 90s that was very popular. And I started buying this little solution and I asked my mom for some money and I went around my neighbors and I said, hey, you know, this cleaning solutions, you know, you see it on TV all the time. I have it. I'll clean your car. You know, I'll shampoo your carpet. I'll cut your lawn. I'll shovel your driveway. And I tell the story of making 50 cents or $2 or $3 back in those days. And it was interesting because that kind of set off that independent entrepreneur spirit. Then when we went to Colombia, my mom's birthplace, and I got to meet my uncle, I always say I attribute a lot of the foundation, the genes of entrepreneurship and that passion for life to my uncle because I saw a different life. You know, in America, we were kind of lower middle class, like I said, had a little condo, only child, all that type of stuff. And it wasn't bad. I wasn't in poverty or anything. But then I went to Colombia and I got to see it from a different country and a different values that my uncle had. He had pursued becoming the CEO of a major corporation and that he founded in the plastics cutlery business. He had 6 kids, so 6 cousins I had, and they all had great things. Like they had nice cars and nice places. And I'm like, my one self, right, and my family, we've only been able to do this. And it wasn't about the things necessarily. It was more about the presence that my uncle had at his manufacturing plant. You know, people went up to him and said, Don Enrique, you know, Mr.
Yes.
Enrique, you
Yes.
know, and that respect that he had and the status that he had. I just loved everything about that. And then he would treat people from the maids that he had at his house to the driver that he had of his car to the factory workers that he had in his manufacturing plant with just total love and respect. And then he commanded that respect back, right? Which is one of the things that I learned a lot when in my youth. So that being said, I you know, went through high school and had some accolades in soccer, but then I went into entrepreneurship, into the telecommunications business, and I found this gentleman named Chris who I really connect with. He's still a friend to this day. He lives in Las Vegas, has a couple exits of companies that he's done. And ultimately, that led me to telecommunications, the automotive business, which the AutoGenie.com was a business that I founded. So it was an entrepreneurial, I guess, pathway the first probably 10, 15, 20 years of my life, of working life. And then after that, once I sold my business in '09, got married, all that good stuff, I found becoming a banker. Right? So it was a weird transition, and most of them do it from banker to entrepreneur. But I always joke, I went from entrepreneur to banker, and I've loved it. I've still never lost my entrepreneur spirit, so that's why writing a book and having the GO4CEO podcast and consulting businesses in different fashions. And I just fell in love with commercial lending. That's why I've stayed in it, and I've, you know, grown the corporate ladder of sense, but I always still have that heart for entrepreneur. In fact, on my LinkedIn, David, it's the first thing I put is entrepreneur with a emoji heart turned commercial banker. So that's
That's
my
just
quick
beautiful.
story.
No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And John, all this has happened in the Midwest, right? You grew up here in Chicago area, or where did you grow
Yeah,
up?
Chicago-born kid. You know, never moved. Have thought about it with our taxes and things like that, but you know, we won't get political. But yeah, I mean, look, I love the seasons. I love the 4 seasons. The, you know, winter, summer, and spring and fall. Right? It's cool because to me right now, as the weather's changing a little bit. Today's September 4th. You feel a little bit of that coolness come in. We've had 90s for so many days in the summer. for me, I love the change of seasons because it represents us. Like
Right,
your life that I acknowledged at the beginning, you changed and pivoted, and I think all of us can bring a certain value to
right.
encourage others that it's okay to change, it's okay to pivot, it's
That's
okay to
correct.
go into a different phase of your life, right? So,
You know, in my business, obviously, you know, I do Medicare, health insurance, and I just love it when we were talking a little bit before that we went on the podcast about how I enjoy having an impact on people's life, a positive impact on people's lives, because they don't know anything, and all of a sudden we get a chance to enlighten them, and their life changes. They feel the relief. And John, I know you're in commercial banking now, and you're really good at what you do. So I wanted to hear a little bit about your story about commercial banking. What is your passion about it, and tell us a little bit of how you impact people in your business.
yeah, so it's interesting. I recently made a change. I've been at now. I thought I'd only be at like one bank, and it didn't turn out that way because I went on my own, and that was where we met in the business in 2017. And then around 2.5 years later, I realized that maybe personal finance wasn't my gig. It was
Mhm.
more business finance and helping business owners because that's where my passion laid. And it was an interesting dynamic of learning of how I got there, right? So then my second voyage was into business commercial banking. As I arrived at that bank, I was a little bit naive. I thought, hey, man, I'm a former business owner. I know how to do things. But I had to learn the finance game. I had to learn EBITDA. I had to learn more things. Even though I had had my own business, I let my accountant take care of that, right? Like, hey,
Okay.
just show me the bottom line. Is there money in the bank? Great. Let's get going. Let's go pay for things. Let's go do things, right? But I really had to learn. And over the last 5 years, I think what's been really cool is that I can literally strategize with businesses. Typically, 5 to 150 million is kind of my niche now. I do startups with SBA lending, and I still help the $1 million or $800,000 business for sure. I'll never reject those people because that's the lifeblood of who becomes Amazon in billions,
Of
right?
course,
Like
yes.
Jeff didn't start with billions. He started a small little business called Amazon.com and became billions. So I'll
Mhm.
never have an elitist attitude that those businesses are too small. What I'll do with them is nurture them and help them go to the right person for now that
Gotcha.
represents them, and then bring them back as they grow into 5, 10, 30, $100 million companies. And that's kind of been the journey. And that's why, for me right now, it's the impact is really strategy, putting the right people around them. So let's say you're a $5 million company and you're kind of stuck there the last few years. I
Okay.
just had a gentleman in the fiber laying business, great guy. Him and his mother started the business. They're kind of stuck, 4.5, 4.7, 4.6, 5 million. They can't get past 5 million. Well, we identified recently that they needed a CFO. They really are not tracking their finances the right way. They're not forecasting in the construction business. It could be very brutal to wait 90 days for a paycheck to come in, and
Right.
they have to pay their employees for 90 days, right? So
Right.
a
Right.
CFO can be a big deal. So that's kind of the things I feel now with the maturity I've had over the last 5 years of becoming a real commercial banker. I switched to a new bank, smaller
Right.
bank, but decisions are in my hands now. I
Ah,
can literally make real decisions up to $10 million that is local, and man, what a cool feeling. So I don't say anything bad about the former bank, $250 billion bank, awesome bank. This one's a $25 billion bank, but I feel like what I learned there and what I'm learning here now is in my hands to really make a change for capital, for risk management, for advisory, for ways that I can really help small to medium-sized business.
John, let's say that there is someone listening to this podcast. They're listening to you. They see what you can offer. What kind of mindset should a person that wants to approach you about getting assistance, whether it be a loan or just advice about how to grow their business, what should they prepare? How do they prepare? How do they approach you? And what do you expect for them to bring so you can help them?
Yeah, and look, we're talking to the Latino community as well, right? I think our brothers and sisters in the Latino community build many small little businesses, right? The mechanic shop, the lawn care, the whatever, right? The one of the challenges is as you grow your small business, you have to realize that your financials are so key, right? And as you mature as a business, your brother that does taxes or your uncle or whatever, some person that does it that's kind of a small accountant. You need to grow out of that. All right, to
Yes.
become a mature 5, 10, 30, 40, $100 million company in gross revenue, you really have to start making sure that you can set up your financials the right way and come to a person like me with those financials. My last 3-year tax returns, my P&L, profit and loss, and balance sheet, from 12-month rolling. Can I show you from 24 what we've done to September 25? And how does that P&L and balance sheet, how did it fluctuate? How did the income statement look like? Where are you headed? How could you put a pro forma together for the next 24 months and show us like, hey, this is what we want to do. We want to buy a company. We want to grow our equipment. We want to innovate with technology. We want to do these things. So, what can they do is just more have that hunger that they're still working in the business and they
Hmm.
want to start the transition of working on the business. It's a big deal, and that's when you really know that you have a true, 7, 8, 9-figure business is when you start working on the business as much as you do in the business. Still having a touch like my uncle. My uncle never lost touch that there was a lady popping cutlery, spoons, knives, and forks off the machine that was a $300,000 machine. He never lost the touch of knowing that lady, but he knew that from an executive level, he needed to see the vision. And I know this now because I deal with these types of companies and I deal with these types of CEOs that see the vision and now come to us for capital, for growth, and all those types of things.
John, tell me a little bit about the common mistakes that you see in business owners make when it comes to money and growth.
Yeah, sure. So I think a lot of times it's in a industry where you can have some rapid growth. It's about understanding how to use your cash flow, right? So when you have a business, and it could be a service business, could be a manufacturing business, could be a technology business, whatever business it is, cash flow is king, they say, right? Cash is king, but cash flow is more king, in my
Right.
opinion, because it allows you to be flexible. It allows you to bring on 2 more talented people that maybe will help that founder, take something off their plate. Maybe take marketing or take operations or take, finances or take whatever off their plate and start to continue to rise up in their strategy and build a business. So I think, from a small business perspective, probably the only thing I would say to you is that they haven't figured out their operating rhythm or their SOPs, standard operating procedures yet, because they're just doing everything, right? Like I remember being a small business owner, the Auto Genie, I did everything. I sold, I marketed, I delivered, I cleaned, right? I did everything. So I'm sure
Right.
like in your business, right? In your Medicare business, you had to be the salesperson, you have the back office person, like all that stuff is just so
Yes.
interesting. And I think as you mature, it's setting up those processes that really allow you to now go from in the business to on the business.
You're absolutely correct, John. As we grow, and I could tell you on a personal level, as I've grown my business and I've got licenses in over 30 states and over 300 customers, I've had to hire virtual assistants to help me with this. And it's the only way to grow. You can't do everything by yourself. So you got a very good point there. Now, John, just one more question about commercial lending, and I really want to hear a little bit more about your book and, of course, your podcast, Go for CEO. But from your perspective, John, what is the future? How do you see the future changing with commercial banking, especially when it involves technology and AI?
Sure. No, so it's interesting. I was just with last night. We were having dinner in Burr Ridge, Illinois, and my boss, his boss was the market president, and then one of my colleagues that followed. Well, I followed him actually from the previous bank, and it's interesting. We were talking about this. We were saying, hey, as a smaller bank, what's our differentiator? How come the big blue guys and the America guys, right, and the horse Fargo guys, right? How do we differentiate? Like, yeah, they have all the best technology. In fact, they have chat bots. They have things that you can go on their website and just bring up someone and talk to possibly a chat. But you know what is missing in that? Is that the real human being is still wanting to talk to you and I. That real human being still wants the attention and wants to know, okay, hey, do you have a real strategy? Now you may use technology to be able to boost that strategy or that thought or that optimization part, right? but is the human being really touching and building that relationship? So to us, for me, I think the industry in and of itself has gotten a little bit soft from a banker perspective. I'll give you a quick story. So before I left the other bank, I still do cold calling, right? And I knock on the door of a business owner. So about 3 months before I left, I was cycling through. I do it at least 2 or 3 times a quarter, where I just go knock on doors. I just get rolled up my sleeves, hear no's, and get out of my office. And it says no soliciting right there. Why are you here? That type of feedback. But I ran into this gentleman, and he said, "Hey, I got to give you credit. You're the first banker I've seen in 10 years
Wow.
that has ever come to my office." And this is a $30-40 million company, right? Gross revenue. He said, "You're the first one I've seen have that personal touch. You know how many DMs, emails, voicemails of numbers I don't even know call me? He said, I don't talk to any of them. Because you walked into my office, John, I'm not saying I'm going to switch or I'm going to give you business, but I want to give you time right now." And he gave me 10 minutes of his time. He was a busy CEO of a company. And he said, "Kudos to you for stepping." So what do I think is changing? Sure, technology is changing and it's going to enhance us. But I think AI and all those things are going to, for the right people, it's going to make us dangerously good.
Oh,
Very, very good.
that's great.
Right?
Yeah.
What we used to do, like, kind of slow, or at least, took us a little bit of time, can happen like this with AI. But now, those of us that still personalize and still have real relationships, it's going to make us much, much better. So that's kind of what I'm thinking right now.
Now, before we segue into what I'm really excited about, talking about the Go4CEO podcast experience, for the people that are interested and have a small business now and are listening to us, what is your contact information? What's the best way to reach you? And we'll have the information here on the screen when you say it. But before we segue,
Yeah.
please share that with us.
Yeah, so LinkedIn is a great one. I'm very active on LinkedIn. You'll see the John Andrade. So John, P as in Paul for my middle name, Andrade, Andrade, or Andrade in Espanol. So that's a great way to DM. My phone number, it's all over. I've never kept it private, right? It's 773-297-4497. I've had that awesome number for about 25, 30 years. So I've been able to keep it for a long time, so everybody knows it. And then, email. So it could be either for the podcast is John at the GO4 number CEO. So John at go the number 4 CEO.com. And then my commercial banking hat that I wear is John.Andrade at Busey, BUSEY.com is the current bank I'm with, and super happy to be with. So
Great. And phone number that you wanted to share?
Yeah, 773-297. So I don't have it. I have an office number, but I never use it. So it's always my mobile number. This thing is 24/7, and sometimes the wife doesn't like it or family, but I want to be there for my clients and obviously respectful of my time with my family. But
Right.
I was in New York on vacation about 3 weeks ago, and I had just started with this new bank, and I had 2 opportunities that came up. I excused myself for about 30 minutes, and today, as of yesterday, I did a presentation, and it's a $10 million deal, and it was because I picked up the phone in New York on the beach,
Wow.
excused myself, and
Yes.
took that conversation, and they were apologetic. They're like, "Oh my God, I didn't know that you were on vacation." I said, "Hey, it's okay. I excused myself. I got permission and asked my family for a couple minutes. I spent 30 minutes talking through this opportunity, and we found some opportunities that now 3 weeks later, we're about to close a $10 million deal." So it was really exciting.
That's great. I'm glad that your family, the family component is so important to work with. You know that you have opportunities, and everybody benefits when you get a chance to help someone else. So that's awesome. Kudos to them. And one more time, John, your telephone number.
773-297-4497. I suggest one of the best ways is text someone. I love texting. If I get a mobile number, I'm like, "Hey, here's who I am. This is why I want to call you. And here's my LinkedIn profile," so they see my face and they can just associate. Sometimes I send a video. So talk about new ways of approach. Someone cold, I'll send them a video, just 5, 10, 15 seconds, 7-second elevator pitch per se, and I text it to them. and you would see the incredible engagement from that compared to just calling someone, because most of us don't answer phone numbers that we don't know. Okay, and that's true. But when you text someone, it goes right to their inbox, and like 97% of people open their text. So
Calling all entrepreneurs. Learn from this guy. I'm learning from him right now, and I'm going to be taking notes after I finish this podcast and rehear it and the recording. So it's going to be great. Thank you, John, for sharing that. That's awesome. If we may, I'd like to segue. By the way, those of you that speak Spanish, lo que hablan español, vamos a tener un segmento en español siguiendo este podcast, y el link va a estar por acá arriba al final del video. So I just mentioned that if you speak Spanish and you want to hear the same interview in Spanish, we're going to do a segment afterwards. And of course, I want our Spanish-speaking people to be able to benefit from this conversation. So we're going to do it in a few minutes. So John, if I may segue into something that you're much better at than I am, which is Go4CEO Podcast. I want to hear what inspired you to jump onto a podcast. You've got so much other things to do, and now you're in a very successful podcast. I'd like to know why you started it, and tell us a little bit about your best experiences on it.
yeah, so why I started it was I saw a piece of the market in podcasting in 2020 when we were all stuck at home for the pandemic. I saw an area where it said to me that not many small to medium-sized business owners were being interviewed, meaning like the big names were being interviewed, Mark Cuban and Grant Cardone and Ed Milet, some of the names that we all know. All right, but David Munoz, who owns Su Buena Salud, and you were one of my first guests, right?
Yes.
I was so honored for that, and I thought to myself, let me be a podcast that brings on small to medium-sized business owners, tells the ideation story, the financing story, the operations, the scaling, the blunders, the successes, the exits, everything that it is to be a CEO of a company and what it takes. That's what I wanted to share. And then the audience became people that were not only looking to start their own business, but really develop themselves, right? While you're becoming an entrepreneur or a seasoned entrepreneur, I know Ed Milet says this, entrepreneurship is the number one self-improvement class you could ever take in your life. Because it self-improves you, because you have to do so many things and think and strategize and
Right.
have your MBA of life, right? So that's what inspired me, is to bring on small and medium-sized business owners, tell their story in different ways, because every interview is different, but it shares some of the similar components of how I learned, or how they learned, sorry, and how they can teach people that watch the show.
Awesome, awesome. And I know you've interviewed a lot of people. Give us maybe one or two experiences you've had interviewing individuals where they have shared something with you that really makes an impact in people's lives.
Well, we're creatures of habit, so usually the last thing is what is the most impactful. And I'll say this, I just literally, so earlier today, I had my own podcast that I interviewed. This gentleman, it's called Know Me Health. So he innovated a company in HR recruiting, has his first kid after he sells his business, has his first kid, and literally in the delivery room, the finance lady from the hospital came in and said, "Hey, congrats on your kid. You owe us this money," right? And he says to himself, he's like, "Okay, well, yeah, here's my credit card." And he didn't even think about like insurance or anything. He's like, "All right, yeah, I'll just pay for it, and then I guess I'll file for claim or whatever." And he said to himself, when she said, "Well, oh, okay, well, if you're going to pay up front and we don't have to wait for 60, 90 days to bill insurance, we'll give you a 30% discount." My point to that is this, is I interviewed a gentleman this morning already of someone that is disrupting the health insurance industry from the care perspective and the payment perspective, right? So the cool thing is that I've met many people, like a buddy of mine that owns a body shop, 50 years transition from his father to himself, and now he's in his 70s.
Wow.
And I love the guy. He's been like a brother, older brother to me. But I didn't realize some of the intricacies of a body shop and ordering these parts and what's OEM and what's aftermarket, and how come the insurance companies fight him to put on a crappier piece, but he fights for the client to put on a better piece on your car. so that it'll last and it won't be faded on the light bulb or
Got it.
on the light stuff. So it's so many stories, but that was a recent one that really from getting to know these people all over the country and all over the world, it's like as human beings, you realize there are so many great ideas, but so few of us are taking action, which, by the way, is chapter 3 of the 4A formula.
And we're going to segue that in a minute, but for those of you who are interested in hearing more about John's interviews, the Go for CEO link for his podcast will be also in the contents of this YouTube podcast interview. So look below in the comments section, you'll find it. But John, now that we're talking about the 4A formula, tell us a little bit about that book. I know that you have assess, align, accountability, and action. Tell us about each step and again, why you wrote it and how it's going to help us.
Yeah, so look, again, it took me 2.5 years right now of writing this book. So, and people ask me, well, hey, how's it been writing a book? And I'm like, I'm not a writer. Like, I bad English. My wife always corrects me on my emails, and I try to have her proofread stuff for me. My 13-year-old now is critiquing me because she's a really good writer and has read like 1,000 books, so she's awesome. But I'm not a writer. I'm a people person, right? Like I'm out there making things happen, networking, building businesses, right, and stuff like that. So I just wrote down a bunch of stuff. I was writing down ideas. I was talking to my wife and like, hey, maybe you should write a book on sales. I'm like, well, there's a lot of sales books out there. Okay, well, maybe I should write a book on this or that or marriage or blah, blah, whatever, all that stuff. And it came out to be that after 2.5 years of writing stuff and ideas and kind of putting it together and meshing, like, okay, I paid for a publisher and author, so I'm not published by some great, Penguin Publishing or someone like that. Your first book, you'll probably have to pay for it and self-publish or go through an actual publisher that you pay. And what happened was in that process, they took a lot of the stuff I had written for about 14,000 words at that point, and started to put the idea behind it. And then I started to think to myself, well, in my life as an only child, as a business owner, as a banker, I've kind of used a formula in my life. Like whenever I have an issue, I assess where I'm at. Anything. I've messed up in my marriage. I've messed up in my fitness. I've messed up in my friendships, in my faith. I've messed up. But where do I need to be today? Today is assess. Today is the first day where I need to assess where I'm at. Then I thought to myself through my writing, I'm like, what I've been really good at is networking. And I have a big 4,000 or 5,000 people on my phone. And I know I don't talk to every single one of them, but I know I could pick up the phone for 90% of them, I'd say, and say, hey, it's John Andrade. Remember we met, because I'll put notes in the profile. Hey, we met at 2021 at X seminar or whatever, right? And a nice note about their kid or Julie or whatever. So I have figured out that in this 4A formula, to untangle any challenge and think like a CEO, I assess, but then I align myself with the right people. When I think about, and I've, referred you business, right? I say, you're 65 or you're 64 years old. You got like a 90-day window here. My guy, David Munoz, you need to talk to him. Well, why? I'll just take care of Medicare later. No. You need to talk to him. You need to make sure that you're educated the right way because you want to be in the right plan. So that's align. Mm-hmm. The third one is accountability, right? So that's kind of where I took a lot of the things that I've shared and I've said, look, I've messed up in so many places in my life. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm headed towards those goals and things that I have dreams about. I got to take accountability, and it's in the mirror. And I'm always improving. I'm always messing up, but I'm always improving, and I try to take accountability every single time as I move forward. And the last one is take action, because all that stuff, assess, align, the perfect network, your network is your net worth, take accountability, all that stuff does not matter until you take action. And obviously doing those steps is actionable, but taking action and realizing like, hey, now I need to move forward is a big deal. So that's the 4A formula.
Awesome. When is the book out, or is it out already?
It's in its final editing review. I've got some videos. So I learned from a gentleman named Alex Hermosi. I'm reading his books, $100 million offers, leads, and $100 million money models. He does these reflection prompts where at the end of his chapters, he does where you can QR code a video to, let's
Okay.
say, his YouTube, right, or
Wow.
his
Okay.
website. So one of the things we're finalizing is every time you finish the assess chapter, I want to have a video that you and I, the reader, can communicate to each other. And obviously, I'll be talking in the video, but I'm going to make it so that they can feel what it is that I wanted them to get from a video standpoint. Because human beings right now are consuming more video than ever in their life.
Right.
And it's one of the best ways for people to actually internalize what they read. So it's a little tick. So it's taken me a few extra weeks, but our goal is the end of September or early October for the 4A Formula launch.
Awesome. Wow. John Andrade, professional senior vice president, commercial banking specialist. John Andrade, author of the 4A Formula, and John Andrade, super podcaster for Go4CEO. John, thank you so much for being on this program of Ser Inconforme. I appreciate you, brother.
Inconforme, hey, be disruptive too, right? I love it. I love it. So do what David's podcast, man. Let's subscribe to the channel, give him some more subscribers, more followers, and get on the movement and keep it going.
All right, thanks, John. For those of you that want the Spanish version, aquí arriba está el clic. Haga clic aquí para ver la versión en español. David Muñoz se despido. Gracias, John.
Gracias.
And cut. All right, great. Thank you, sir. All right, so now what I'll do is, I have a gal who does all my video editing, and
Yeah.
she'll prepare it and massage it and put in the. Are you still got time to do the Spanish one, or?
Yeah. Let's
you're
go.
good. So we'll
Yeah,
take
that's
maybe
about
another
2:30.
20 minutes or 25 minutes to do the Spanish. All right, so I'm going to segue here, and my Spanish is just as awful as yours, so.
We'll try our best.
All right, here we go. Bienvenido a otro segmento de Ser Inconforme. Soy David Muñoz y con nosotros tenemos otra persona que es súper en su profesión, es autor, es profesional es banquero comercial y también es autor de un libro, autor, banquero y dueño del podcast Go4CEO, que tenemos el honor de tenerlo con nosotros. John Andrade, bienvenido a Ser Inconforme.
Qué placer, David. Muchas gracias por esta oportunidad, ¿verdad? De un podcast suyo. Y te he visto por muchos años hacer lo que tú haces y es un encanto muy grande verte que estás creciendo en este ritmo de podcast, pero cuántas cosas ya no has hecho en tu vida de ayudar a tantas personas con su buena salud y con Medicare y todas esas cosas. Entonces, un placer estar en tu podcast.
Gracias. Y quiero decirle a todos los que están hablando español, por favor tenga paciencia con nosotros. El español no es nuestra primera lengua, así es que vamos a complementarnos los dos luchando con español. No se rían mucho, por favor, pero si se ríen, me alegro que sea entretenido.
Sí.
Pero Jan, mira, sé que, bueno, primero quería preguntarte sobre el oficio que tienes oficialmente de ser banquero comercial para muchas compañías. Cuéntanos cómo trabaja eso, qué tú ves en la industria, qué te inspiró a hacer esto.
Sí, entonces, mira, en el 2009 yo vendí mi negocio, ¿verdad? Y luego me casé y 6 meses después de casarme, en marzo de 2009, mi nueva esposa me dijo, oiga, ¿qué vas a hacer para trabajo? ¿Qué vas a hacer? y quería que pues salga de la casa, ¿verdad? Entonces, gracias a Dios tuve un éxito bueno con vender mi negocio pequeño, se llamaba theautogenie.com. Y en esos 6 meses estaba tratando de ver qué cosas yo puedo hacer, qué sería el próximo negocio y luego todo eso. Y lo que pasó es un buen amigo que era mi banquero cuando yo era negociante, era dueño de negocio, se llama Carlos. Y Carlos me dijo, mira, él es un gerente de un sucursal que me ofrecía muchas cosas y servicios y él era mi banquero. Me dijo, yo tengo una posición como banquero aquí en el banco, si no has hecho un nuevo negocio, que sería como venir al banco a trabajar. Dije, ok, está bien, pues me gusta que se ponen corbata, ¿verdad? Se ponen un traje bueno y se ven bien, ¿verdad? Esas personas. Entonces dije, ok, voy a ser banquero. Pero no supe qué era, ¿verdad? Al principio comencé en lo que es los sucursales. Se puede evidentemente, ¿verdad? Con Bank of America, todas esas cosas. Y no me gustó los primeros 90 días, sinceramente. Estaba todavía en esa posición donde era un ego, yo dijera un ego mío, que yo era pues mi propio negocio. Yo decía cuando hacía cosas o yo podía tener decisiones. Y en esos días tuve que darme un menos ego y completar, ¿verdad? Entrenamientos y saber cómo ser mejor un banquero. Entonces, en esos días aprendí mucho los primeros 2, 3 años, y me hice un gerente o me promovieron a un gerente posición y luego, como tú sabes, donde te conocí, uh, tuve un break, ¿verdad? Unos 2 años y medio donde fui a mi propio negocio otra vez porque me fui del banco sucursal, de manejando sucursales. Y cuando regresé al banco, fui a lo que es comercial. Y hay una diferencia. El comercial es diferente porque estás solo trabajando con negocios, no es nada personal, nada de seguros, nada de banco personal, todo comercial. Entonces, eso es lo que hago ahora, es trabajo con negocios de usualmente de 1 millón a 100 millones en ingreso y ayudo a esos gerentes y dueños de compañías cómo crecer, cómo comprar otras compañías, cómo comprar edificios, cómo financiar esas cosas, cómo tener capital para atraer el talento y todas esas cosas. ¿Ya?
Cuéntanos, John, hay muchas personas a lo mejor que nos están mirando, especialmente si usted que está mirando este podcast es dueño de negocio, tal vez un negocio pequeño, quiere ayuda, quiere conocimiento. ¿Qué deben de tener en conciencia o tal vez nos puede compartir qué errores hacen las personas que tienen pequeños negocios que desean crecer y no pueden? ¿Qué le aconsejas?
Ok, mis latinos, óiganme, mira, ustedes y nosotros comenzamos negocios, pero tenemos esta mentalidad que es nuestro negocio pequeño y nos hacemos el pequeño negocio que sí, ganamos buen dinero algunas veces y estamos creciendo algo, pero en realidad lo que no hacemos es tener una, una perspectiva de otras personas ser advisors, ser ¿cómo es?
Asesores.
Consultantes,
Ujú.
con, asesores, consultantes con ustedes, ¿verdad? Y eso es lo que yo dijera que es la cosa más dura de aprender, ¿verdad? Tenemos una persona que trabajaba en fábrica y comenzó su propio fabricación de lo que sea, de cortar pasto o de mecánica o lo que sea. Pero de una mentalidad pequeña, lo que pasa es que tú haces todo en tu negocio, operaciones, finanzas, mercadeo público, ventas, pagos, todas esas cosas. Y lo que pasa es que cuando creces un negocio a un nivel de ya, digamos, medio millón a 1 millón, cosas cambian y tienes que tener talento sobre tu negocio y atraer a las personas bien y soportarte en tu negocio. Entonces lo que pasa es que eso yo dijera sería el intento más grande que yo tengo es enseñando a los latinos que son dueños de negocios de menos de $1 millón es cómo superar su negocio para que rompe ese 1 millón y luego vayan a 5, a 10, a 15, a 20, a 100 millones de dólares en ingreso para que ellos puedan aportar más oportunidades para empleados y afectar su comunidad.
John, en mi negocio de Medicare, muchos saben que yo vendo seguros médicos, o yo digo, mejor digo, yo ofrezco el servicio de seguro médico, educo al público, y yo he crecido, gracias a Dios he crecido, ya tengo 30 estados y más de 300 clientes, y yo vi que yo tenía que hacer la decisión de contratar personas que me ayudaran, que se encargaran de muchas de las cosas porque quería seguir creciendo. En el caso tuyo, con personas que tienen pequeños, como tú dices, pequeños negocios que lo quieren hacer grande, ¿cuáles son los pasos que deben de considerar para crecer y salir del molde de un negocio pequeño a uno grande?
La primera cosa es el ojo en las finanzas, porque
Mm.
determina todo. Determina el capital que el banco te quiere prestar, determina cuántos empleados tú puedes atraer, cuánto puedes pagarle, determina qué cosas tú puedes comprar, qué compañías, qué edificios, qué crecimiento tú tengas. Entonces, las finanzas, los estados de cuenta, lo que se di, la ganancia y la derrota, ¿verdad? Ver esos estados de cuenta y estar preparados con un buen accountant, ¿cómo se dice?
Contador público, sí,
Contador,
contador,
¿verdad? Un
sí.
contador, pero algunas veces no es tanto el contador que, pues, digamos, tu tío es un contador y lo hace por así, por una persona o tres personas o 15 personas. Es más atraer una compañía de contadores, ¿verdad?
Sí.
Unos brands, unos nombres como Porty Brown, digamos, es una que me viene a mente. Y son compañías donde ya son más educados en los taxes, son educados en el manejamiento de finanzas y pueden darte una visión de 13 semanas, como un CFO se llama, ¿verdad? Y mostrarte cómo puedes usar tu ingreso para que en 13 semanas, o se llama un forecast, de 26 semanas o de 13 semanas, tú ya sabes cuánto tienes que pagar, cuánto tienes que comprar, cuánto tienes que tener en empleados y todas esas cosas. Entonces, más que todo, en mi opinión, crecer tu negocio es saber las finanzas y tú no tienes que ser el experto, pero tienes que tener un ojo y con la misma contabilidad de tus representantes, de tus asesores y ver una relación, digamos, como conmigo, con un banquero que que te dé la información bien y que tú puedas hacer una decisión educada.
Antes de que nosotros empezáramos a hablar, John, tuvimos una entrevista en inglés y compartiste de algunas de las experiencias que estuviste ayudando a empresarios que tenían pequeños negocios a hacer la transición. Cuéntanos una de esas victorias que tuviste.
Sí, pues gracias a Dios hay muchas y la que viene a mente, digamos, sería uno que es, ellos ponen fibra en el terreno para
Ujú.
que es comunicaciones, para que tú tengas el internet y todas esas cosas, de correo electrónico, esas cosas. Am, y te doy un ejemplo, ellos estaban como de 3, 4, 5 millones de dólares al año y no pueden superar, ¿verdad? A 5, a 10, a 20 millones. Y lo que pasaba es que no sabían cómo ellos estaban tan en el negocio, adentro del negocio, trabajando en negocios,
Ujú.
y no veían lo que es, ok, si yo hago esta movida, pongo esto a trabajar en esta finanza, aunque sea deuda, pues que unas veces como latinos no nos gusta deuda, nos gusta pagar en efectivo. La deuda es un multiplicador de crecer, ¿ok? Y si lo usas bien, la deuda te puede ayudar a multiplicar tu crecimiento en el negocio. Ahora bien, obviamente hacerlo en la manera apropiada, con un
Correcto.
contador, con un banquero, con un abogado, digamos, esas son las tres personas que usualmente yo sugiero que sea ahí en la mesa de pensamiento, de estrategia para tu negocio. Y eso es lo que te dijera, ese negocio, lo que pasó últimamente es que han comenzado a crecer porque tuvieron una oportunidad de conocer lo que es un CFO, es un Chief Financial Officer, es básicamente como un contabilidad adentro del negocio, pero no tener que tenerlos como empleado. Se llama fractional, es partemente, part-time, y eso te da una ventaja tan grande porque ellos tienen la mentalidad que saben, si $1 entra, ellos saben 2 centavos viene aquí. Este gasto es 20 centavos, esta inversión es 30 centavos. Entonces, te ponen en una situación donde como negociante, como dueño de negocio, tú tienes el poder y ya sabes cómo puedes mover tu negocio a éxito más grande.
Entonces, si yo soy un dueño de pequeños negocios, tengo mi tintorería, tengo mi garaje de carros, tengo otro negocio y sé que necesito hacer un cambio porque ya estoy sofocado, no puedo hacer todo. Y están escuchando este podcast, quieren comunicarse con John Andrade. La primera pregunta que van a hacer, ¿cuánto cobras, John Andrade, para darle ese asesoramiento a ellos?
Nada.
¿Cómo?
Obviamente, pues el tiempo es muy valioso para todos en la vida y no lo vamos a obtener otra vez ya cuánto le gastemos. Pero en realidad sí, es una conversación más que todo. Al principio
Ya.
siempre es, ¿qué es lo que estás buscando hacer? Tú eres una persona de negocio que me llama y me dice, mira, yo quiero crecer. Ok, pues ¿qué es eso? No, quiero comprar esta compañía. Es competencia, pero el dueño ya tiene 80 años y quiere retirarse. O desgraciadamente se murió el dueño y la esposa o el esposo no saben manejar ese negocio. Eso sería otra oportunidad. Tengo un edificio donde estoy haciendo rento el edificio, pero quiero comprar el edificio. Eso es otro nivel de poder hacer finanzas, ¿verdad? Entonces hay muchas diferentes maneras, líneas de crédito, cosas así, o manejo de su contabilidad con las conexiones que tenemos, cuentas de banco, todo eso, pero en realidad no hay ningún costo, es más que todo saber qué tipo de negocio eres, qué tipo de metas tienen y luego saber cómo podemos tener una estrategia buena para completar ese negocio, digo, esa meta.
Y me decías anteriormente que íbamos a pasar a otro segmento de esta entrevista porque me interesa conocer más de tu libro y más del podcast que tiene Go4CEO. Pero si hay una persona que tiene un pequeño negocio, quiere comunicarse contigo, yo sé que tú eres uno de los pocos banqueros que todavía puedes ir directamente al negocio de ellos para visitarlos y tener la charla, ¿no?
Claro que sí. No, eso es unas maneras mejor que yo veo, porque yo quiero ver el garaje, quiero ver el edificio, quiero ver las operaciones. Si tienes dos, tres, cuatro personas en una computadora manejando ahí órdenes, oyendo las conversaciones, todas esas cosas son muy importantes porque obviamente yo puedo ver desde mi perspectiva y como banquero, ok, mira, veo que estás haciendo esto, dime la meta de esto. Oh, yo quiero crecer dos, tres empleados más en mi contabilidad. O quiero crecer dos, tres empleados más para vendedores, ¿verdad? O cosas así. Entonces, podemos tener estrategia y tener conversación. Y con mucho gusto, sí, ir a tu locación o venir a mi oficina o simplemente una llamada. Pero usualmente me encanta estar en donde es tu casa de negocio porque tú te sientes más confortable hablando de tu negocio, de tu bebé que creciste y me puedes mostrar qué es lo que estás haciendo y dónde quieres ir.
Jan Andrade es profesional en lo que son las ventas comerciales, perdón, los préstamos comerciales o asesoramiento para negocios, comercios. Jan, antes de entrar al otro tema, por favor, denos tu número de teléfono y cómo se pueden comunicarse contigo.
Sí, mucho gusto. 773-297-4497. Es muy simple. He tenido ese número por casi 30 años, gracias a Dios, y las personas me conocen por ese número, 773-297-4497. Si no, no puedo contestar, déjame un mensaje. También el text es muy fácil. Mándame un text. Oiga, te oí en el podcast de David Muñoz. Quiero hablarte de una situación con mi negocio. Quiero comprar un edificio. Quiero comprar una compañía. Esas cosas, esos temas. Y con mucho gusto yo te prometo que te llamo y hacemos una junta o hacemos esa conversación ese mismo minuto.
Perfecto, muchas gracias, John. Ahora sí, que quiero hacer la transición, ahora hablar un poco de tu libro. Escribiste un libro llamado, ¿cómo se llama? 4A, Fórmula. Sí, entonces sé que son cuatro etapas que uno debe de considerar cuando uno quiere cambiar, yo diría, su forma de pensar y organizar su forma de pensar. Cuéntanos un poco más de tu libro, John.
A ver, entonces, cuatro steps, ¿verdad? ¿Cómo se dice? Ayúdame.
Sí,
Steps
cuatro
es
pasos.
cuatro pasos, perdón.
Sí, pero
Ok,
¿por qué
entonces mira,
primero cuatro, sí, dinos desde el principio, ¿por qué lo escribiste y cuáles son esos cuatro pasos?
sí, sí, no, lo escribí porque obviamente pues una cosa que yo quería hacer en mi vida es dejar una legacía. Tengo tres niñas, soy muy, muy humilde que tengo tres niñas porque me han cambiado la vida. Pero en esa situación he querido saber, oh, ¿qué puedo hacer yo que dejo ahorita con la tecnología? Se puede dejar videos y todas esas cosas, pero yo quise dejar algo físico que yo aprendí en mi vida y a lo mejor le ayude a una persona o a mis nietos o nietas en el futuro. Entonces esa era la razón que hice el libro o escribí el libro. Segunda es, la fórmula vino porque estaba escribiendo. Llegué como a unos 15,000 palabras en el documento que estaba escribiendo y no sabía qué era exactamente lo que quería decir, pero tuve tantas ideas que estaba escribiendo por unos 2 años, que al 2 años yo pagué para un publisher, un publicista y un editor, y dije, mira, ayúdame a poner todas estas ideas dentro de un libro. Y lo que pasó es que identificamos que yo tengo un proceso, una fórmula,
Ujú.
4 pasos,
Ok.
cuatro fórmulas y básicamente es accesar, porque hoy en día si tú tienes un problema en tu fe, en tus finanzas, en tu familia, en tus ejercicios, en tu salud, lo que sea, tienes que accesar dónde estás, porque hoy en día tienes que decirte, ok, aquí estoy, inventario en lo que tengo disponible conmigo y qué estoy haciendo y qué tengo que hacer, accesar. El segundo paso es alinear. Alineamiento con personas que tú conoces o con personas que conocen a alguien.
Ujú.
Algunas veces tú tienes un contacto como David Muñoz, yo le puedo llamar y decir, David, man, tengo una situación ahorita que no sé si tú conoces a un doctor que es especialista de manos, ¿verdad? Por decir. Y David a lo mejor tiene alguien en su red de contactos. Eso es alinearte con personas y con tu propio alineamiento de personas y con las personas que ellos conocen es también una grande parte de ese capítulo segundo. El tercero paso es contabilidad. Eso es tú ver en el espejo y decirte, yo soy el problema, yo causé esta situación. Aunque no hubiera sido tuyo o la circunstancia pasó, tú tienes que tener contabilidad con ti mismo o sí mismo, ¿verdad? Y ver qué puedes hacer. Entonces hay un capítulo muy grande en eso y porque yo he hecho muchas cosas malas o de cosas que no quise hacer mal, pero lo hice, lo que sea, y tuve que tener contabilidad. Y luego la última es acción, porque después de todo, tú puedes ir a seminarios, puedes oír a este increíble podcast de David Muñoz y todas las personas que han estado aquí. Te estamos diciendo cosas, pero si no tomas acción, es por nada, ¿verdad? Entonces hay que tomar acción en lo que tú aprendes, ponerlo en acción en tu vida y vas a progresar de ahí. Entonces eso es the 4A Formula.
Y muy pronto en inglés y tal vez en español también para traducirlo. Así es que si le interesa el libro, el link del libro o el link para comunicarse con John está aquí abajo en los comentarios, sección de comentarios, tanto para comunicarse con John a nivel profesional para lo que es el sector comercial, también conocer de su libro y ahora vamos a pasar a otro tema, si me permite John, a John que es un profesional en lo que son podcasts. ¿Cómo se dice eso en español? Podcast. No sé,
Eh,
pero sí, tienes un podcast que se llama Go4CEO, excelente, a donde él, igual que un servidor, entrevistamos líderes en la comunidad, líderes que han hecho una diferencia, tanto en su vida como en la vida de las personas que ellos les sirven en todos los días. John, cuéntanos un poco de tu programa que se llama Go4CEO.
No, gracias. En el 2020, cuando la pandemia pegó pues, a todo el mundo, yo estaba sentado ahí y siempre es interesante, ¿verdad? Dios nos da como una idea y algunas veces no actuamos, no tenemos acción en esa idea. Pero es, como dicen, una pepita, ¿verdad? Y si no lo creces, la planta no puede salir. Pero en esos días, cuando estaba en la casa y en esa pandemia, yo me dije, mira, ¿qué puedo hacer yo con esta tecnología tan buena hoy en día que tú puedes estar en la casa y grabar algo y luego ponerlo en el YouTube o en otros podcasts de audio o de visual? Y dije, esta ha sido algo que Dios me dio en el pasado, pero nunca actué. Y yo dije, ok, voy a cesar. Ahorita en podcasting en el 2020 no había nada para negocios pequeños y personalidades son dueños de negocios pequeños que ellos podían decir su historia, sus operaciones, la idea que tuvo, la financiera, cómo crecieron, su líder, su mentalidad de líder. Entonces lo que dije es voy a hacer un podcast que entrevisto a hombres y mujeres que han comenzado su propio negocio y yo creo que va a ser una comunidad que va a aprender de no solo tener su propio negocio, pero cómo actuar, cómo ser líder, cómo tener finanzas buenas, cómo operar, cómo atraer a talento. Cosas así son las cosas en ese podcast. Se llama Go, el número 4, el número 4, CEO, CEO, ¿verdad?
Sí.
Entonces, en esos días pasaron, yo estaba entrevistando personas como usted, como ti, David, que estabas ahí en español, en inglés, y lo que pasó es que atrayó a una comunidad de personas que han aprendido de negocios pequeños a grandes,
Mm.
pero con personalidades que no son famosas, que digamos es un señor como David que ha hecho tantas cosas para la comunidad, pero a lo mejor no tiene un nombre grandísimo, ¿verdad? En su comunidad es grande porque le conocen muy bien, pero digamos mundialmente. Entonces eso era el tema, es tener un podcast donde puedo atraer estos nombres de personas que están afectando las cosas muy bien en sus comunidades.
No, compartimos la misma pasión, Jan, porque sí, lo importante es comenzar en nuestra comunidad ayudándole a los demás, pero igual que un servidor, yo he visto el crecimiento en tener la oportunidad de servirle a personas en 30 estados, cientos de clientes, y todos necesitan lo mismo, simplemente que uno le sirva, que le eduque, le ayude a tomar el próximo paso para sacarlo de la confusión y como dices, John, Dios nos bendice y nos premia con el crecimiento del negocio. Pero yo, si acaso una persona que nos estás escuchando este podcast quieren comunicarse contigo, te voy a preguntar dos cosas. Una, ¿cuáles son algunas palabras en conclusión que puedes compartir con la audiencia que habla español, que tal vez sean empresarios o personas que quieran tomar el próximo paso? Y luego no olvides de darnos tu información también de contacto.
No, tantas gracias, David. Ah, me da tan buenas, ah, así digamos, emociones, ¿verdad? Porque es muy dado que en los Estados Unidos la comunidad latina es un impacto muy grande y unificarnos como peruanos, ecuatorianos, colombianos, mexicanos, guatemaltecos,
Puertorriqueño.
chilenos, de todos, ¿verdad? Ah, de puertorriqueños, eso, la realidad es que no ha habido esa unidad usualmente, en mi opinión.
Sí.
Hay comunidades como los judíos o los griegos que son muy unidos en su comunidad y desafortunadamente algunas veces en la comunidad latina, pues yo soy mexicano, yo soy puertorriqueño, yo soy colombiano, yo soy ecuatoriano, ¿no? Esas cosas, ¿verdad? Lo que yo dijera es que en realidad um, me da un placer dar este libro como una fórmula, ¿verdad? Es una fórmula de accesar dónde estás ahorita, right? Y luego verlo como una persona que quiere comenzar negocio o quiere corregir las 5 partes de la vida que yo veo como importante. La fe, la familia, la salud, las finanzas y luego el entretenimiento, digamos, fun.
Sí,
Creo que se
entretenimiento,
dice
sí.
entretenimiento. Sí, sí. Entonces, esas 5 partes de la vida, yo lo hablo en el libro, que mira, algunas veces hay que accesarlo, porque yo de vez en cuando me voy más lejos de donde Dios me quiere estar, ¿verdad? No estoy leyendo la Biblia y todas esas cosas, ¿verdad? Luego me acceso y digo, ok, tengo que comenzar otra vez. O con mi familia, ¿verdad? Estoy trabajando tan duro, tan duro, tan duro, tan duro, y luego me olvido que por 2 semanas o 3 meses no he ido con mi niña que tiene 11 años, o niñas, ¿verdad? Uno 13, 11 y 6. No he compartido tiempo solamente con ella o con
Ya.
mi esposa, salir con ella, ¿verdad? Entonces, esas 5 partes de la vida es lo que me atrae más que todo, es poder hablar de esas cosas. Te digo una historia bien rápido. Me mandó un text un amigo que es negociante, tiene su propio negocio en lo que es paving. No sé cómo se dice en español, pero eh, eh,
Paving como de
ellos
cementos.
cemento,
Sí.
lotes, le
Ok.
ponen el tar y todo eso. Y de pronto, esta mañana, esto es muy fresco en mi vida ahorita, muy, muy real, muy pronto, ah, me dijo que él ha estado teniendo un problema de tomar mucho. Y los últimos 2 años yo no sabía, pero me dijo eso. Y yo me dije, man, ¿por qué yo sería una persona que él puede mandar un text? Y yo no he hecho ningún negocio con él, no le banqueo nada, solo he sido como por decir, un hermano mayor, porque él es menor que mí en edad, y yo le tuve en el podcast, pero nos conocimos en esa manera. Y los últimos 2, 3 años, de vez en cuando hablamos y le doy una sugerencia o le digo algo, él me dice algo. Y de pronto esta mañana me dijo que paró de tomar y que la vida de él hace 2 o 3 semanas se ha cambiado.
Qué bueno.
Y qué afecto es eso. Y no era por mí, porque yo no soy nada. Era porque, pues, a lo mejor yo he estado ahí por 2, 3 años sin pedirle nada, pero él quiso dar ese testamento, por decir. Y, man, qué bonito ver que su vida se ha cambiado en los últimos 2, 3 semanas. Y va a ser duro, pero le dije, mira, es bueno que accesaste donde estabas y que vistes que el negocio que tienes y tu familia y todo eso se estaba deteriorando, ¿verdad? Estaba cayendo un poco. Y luego te alineaste con tu fe, con programas para parar, como tomar y esas cosas. Entonces, era muy bonito. Ojalá le ayude a alguien.
¿Me acuerdas de algo que tengo en mis libros que se llama Inconforme? De personas que están en esa etapa de la vida que le falta algo, que están inconformes y necesita tomar esa decisión, ese paso, y necesitan acercarse, escribo en personas, rodearse de personas que le den positivas vibras,
Mm.
que le ayuden a ver que hay algo más que el alcohol o los vicios y pueden ayudarse, contaminarse con algo bueno, ¿verdad? Así es que te felicito por eso, John, de verdad. Mira, gracias, John. Mira, John Andrade es profesional, vicepresidente en banca comercial. Por favor, se comunica con él en ese aspecto. Es un gran amigo y el dueño del podcast Go4CEO y autor. John, muchas gracias por compartir estos minutos conmigo en el programa de Ser Inconforme, de verdad.
Me
Dinos,
encanta esa palabra.
mira, por favor, dinos cómo se comunican contigo antes de despedirnos.
Sí, sí, 773-297-4497. Mándame un text o una llamada, déjame un mensaje si no contesto y con mucho gusto hablemos de cosas de poder ayudarte. Y oigan, manden este video, soporten ¿cómo es? A David y háganse miembros de la comunidad de David porque él está haciendo unas cosas increíbles y están moviendo lo que es las cosas, las metas de otras personas. Él está ayudando a muchas personas. Entonces, gracias, David.
Suscríbanse, sí, suscríbanse, hagan un like, compartan este video. Y todos esos que hablan inglés, my friends that are speaking English, if you want to hear the same interview in English, please It's right up here, the link. Just click here and you will see the interview in English. John Andrade, bendiciones, gracias por estar en Ser Conforme.
Inconforme.
Thank you. Excellent. All right,
Awesome, brother.
let me just stop it here. So, okay, great.